Hello, this is Tom with the Knoxville Academy of the Blade, and today, on Christmas Eve, I'm going to be reviewing both Castille Armory's new economy rapier, and several people have asked me for a follow-up review of my rapier that I did several months ago. So this is going to actually be a short, hopefully, three-part review. I'm going to do this one, I'm going to compare this to his high-end models, and I'm just going to talk a bit about how mine's held up over the last, 8 months or so. So first off, this is the economy rapier. As you can see, it looks like a rapier. It's very similar to his regular models. The main differences are in the blade and guard. The guard is a tiny bit thinner, and obviously with all these open spaces here, it's very light. There's no bars here like you would see on a typical shell hilt or a Pappenheimer type guard, so that further lightens it up a bit. And the blade is actually a little heavier than his regular blade. It feels like the edges are a tiny bit thicker, maybe on the order of 1 millimeter down here at the forte. It also doesn't have the fullers that his high-end blades have. Otherwise, it's actually fairly similar. Pommel, blade, everything else is very similar to my other one. The blade, this is the grip. The grip is wood. It's dyed black, but it's not, doesn't have any varnish or anything on it like that. So you could, if you wanted to, you could varnish it, you could etch your initials on it, you could etch your school's initials on it, anything like that. The balance on this one, this is the 40-inch model, is going to be right here-ish. That's a little over an inch in front of the shell. So it's a touch heavier, again, than mine, but I had him balance mine much closer to the guard because that's what I wanted. But in terms of responsiveness, this is a very responsive, very light weapon. In terms of actual weight, it's actually incredibly light. It's right at 850 grams, I believe. Maybe a touch more once you add in the blunt and everything like that. So to compare it to mine, as you can see, mine has a little bit more wear on it, but shape-wise and whatnot, this one has a slightly smaller guard, and again without the met pieces here. But from the front, you're looking at very similar amounts of protection. The crossbar itself is about the same. The biggest difference I've seen so far with the guard, other than the thinness of the metal, is the fact that the guard itself, rather than the edges being rounded off, are more square. They're not sharp by any means, but trying to hold my sword behind me. They're not sharp by any means, but they're definitely not round stock. And the pommel is just the ball. The only options you've got with this are blade length, either 38 inches or 40 inches. But it has the leather washer, it's got the same grip and everything else that his other models have. And the guard itself, it's not polished, quote unquote, but it's also not just left plain. It's got kind of a brushed finish on it. But all in all, it's a very nice weapon. It's a very well-balanced weapon. This is probably the best economy sword, or economy rapier on the market right now. It's better than some of the ones that still come in slightly cheaper, but it's on par with, if not better than, something like a Darkwood, which is going to be $50 to $100 more. Obviously, if you want something custom, if you want something other than this guard design, you're looking at spending more money. But for $200 plus shipping, this is, probably the best buy you can make. And again, like I said, I'm going to compare it to mine. Again, I showed you the shape and sizes of the guards themselves. You can also see the slight difference in blade shape. Mine has a much more dramatic taper. The Forte is much thicker. The Ricasso is no different, but the Forte flares a lot right at the guard, which gives it a much stronger, much more rigid Forte. And I believe, yeah, looking at them, mine is definitely a thinner blade. This is his stock high-end blade versus his stock economy blade. The high-end blade is definitely a much thinner blade, and it tapers. It tapers about the same this way, but the thickness, it's definitely a slightly thinner blade. Balance-wise, looking at the blades themselves, flexibility-wise, they're about the same. I feel like the high-end blade's a touch more flexible, but they flex in the same part of the blade. If you look again, they flex in the last third, right where they should. So, back up this way. Comparing them again, if you have the money, obviously this is probably one of the nicest swords I've ever handled. However, for, once again, $200, I don't think you can do better for an introduction model or a school class type model. Now, as I said, a couple of people have asked me for some more comments on my high-end rapier from Castille. So this is, I got it March-ish, I think. So this is after a little less than a year of fighting with it, about 8 months. But it's been used on average probably twice a week, if not 3 times a week, every week since then. It's gone to one tournament, one HEMA tournament, and it's done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 demos, including a Renaissance fair. So it's taken quite its share of beating. And if you look at it, it is battered, but still in excellent condition. The blade has not taken a set. The blade has no nicks. The blade has no notches. I have not had to file or do anything to this blade in 8 months. The grip, still in good condition, showing no signs of wear, showing no signs of developing smooth spots under my hand, anything like that. Truthfully, the only way you can really tell, unless you really, really look at it, that it's been used as much as it has, is the fact that in a lot of places like in here, where my fingers tend to rest, and here, where I tend to take a lot of hits, the bluing itself has started to wear off, but I kind of like that neat little gunmetal finish that it gets once the bluing wears off. And it's absolutely festooned with scrapes and whatnot all through here. But I think I think that's cool. It looks like it's been used. It has taken precisely 2 hard hits. Well, it's taken more than 2 hard hits, but it's taken 2 hard hits that have left any sort of discernible alteration to the guard. One, and you probably won't even be able to see it, is this right here. Got hit with a side sword, very heavy side sword, and it dented this part right here, maybe a millimeter in. And I took another hit right here, again with a side sword, and it dented, maybe shifted, actually this whole like bar assembly here, shifted it down maybe a millimeter. The only reason I can even tell that is this one, if you look very closely, I mean like, 6 inches closely, if you can get in close enough and keep it focused, there, it's just a touch bent. And then you can see the quillins are not completely straight anymore. This one is down maybe again a millimeter. But those are some very hard hits. It's taken very hard hits to the shelf, it's taken very hard hits here to the blade. I think there's actually a nick somewhere here on the pommel, again from a saber. Yeah, right there. It's one you're not going to be able to see on the camera, but there's a noticeable nick on the pommel where it got a saber blow right on the pommel. But it has not You know, it shows no signs of breaking. It shows no signs of any sort of failure. Definitely, again, I would highly, highly recommend this sword.